Welcome to this presentation which details the assessment rubric used for Criteria 4. When reviewing your folios at SAT assessment time, Criteria 4 is used to assess how well you've used a range of materials, methods and media to develop and refine solutions. Here's the assessment rubric that's used for Criteria 4. And we can see the Criteria 4 description on the far left. And from left to right we see the levels of performance columns and the descriptions explaining in detail the award for the mark. Criteria 4 is marked out of 10 and there are 5 possible performance levels within this, from very low to very high. Now you're probably getting quite used to seeing this, and there is a copy of all 8 criteria, including this one, on the course website under Resources, Unit 4 Assessment, SAT Assessment. So I think it'd be a really good idea to print these out as well. So let's have a look at Criteria 4. Just to remind you again, Criteria 4 is all about methods, media and materials. There are 3 different aspects that are being assessed, and I've taken these from the very high performance descriptors from the previous table. And what we'll do now is just explore some of the key terms in these 3 different aspects. So for Criteria 4, there's a whole bunch of different things I'm going to be looking at. One is how thoroughly you explore materials, methods and media in development and refinement, and that will be evident in both presentation design folios. I'm also concerned with how well you explore 2 and 3-dimensional manual and digital methods in your development and refinement across both presentation design folios, and also how expressive and creative you have been in using these. Your technical abilities are also going to be assessed. And finally, I'm interested in your choices and the exploration of media and materials appropriate to the methods for possible solutions in the refinement of both presentations. So we might unpack these a little bit further. So let's now look at the first aspect of Criteria 4, and again I'll highlight some of the key terms and try to explain these in languages that are a bit more user friendly, and also to show you some examples of student folio work to illustrate it. The main thing to take here from the first aspect is to ensure that you're exploring methods, media and materials, and that you're doing it in a thorough way across development and refinement. So to ensure that you're going to do that, a general rule of thumb is to ensure that you pick at least 3 different methods of production, 3 different media and at least 3 different materials, and that you explore these in a thorough way, not just try, one little media just on one page, that you're being really sort of comprehensive with it. The Guthrie text explores methods of production in great detail in Chapter 2, and there are lots of great examples of different techniques and methods to use to create designs. And page 42 provides a bit of an overview chart of the different methods, media and materials. So methods include things like drawing, and that's both 2D and 3D drawing, painting, printing, photography, computer, collage and 3D process. So you'll need to pick at least 3 of these. You'll notice that the media and methods which correspond to the method, you'll notice that the media and materials which correspond to the method are presented on the 2 columns on the right. Sorry, I'm losing my place here with my reading. So you see them here. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you pick painting. The media that you would use to do that could be acrylic paint, watercolour paint or gouache paint. And the material that you could apply that media to would be things like paper, card, wood, glass, metal, clay, stone, plastic and textiles. So you've actually got to look at your resources that you have at home and at school, and just see if you've got a whole bunch of different things that you could use and trial. So this chart is really invaluable for you to look at. It's on page 42, and you might find that you want to also research the web for other techniques, sometimes on YouTube if you're trying to work out a particular technique You know, YouTube's great. There'll be people who've posted some videos on how to do things, and also look at your research and really analyse methods, material and media that have been used by other designers. Really look closely at the images and text and try to figure out how they've been made, and that will give you, you know, great inspiration. We'll also give you a bit of an activity to do later on this week that gets you to really kind of analyse the 3 M's, which is the short way of saying methods, media, materials, which gets a bit repetitive after a while. So from here on in, I'll probably start referring to them as the 3 M's. So moving on, what we'll do now is just have a look at Mimi's folio page, and I thought it'd be good to show you what she's done and how she's used the 3 different M's, and she's used them to develop and refine concepts for one of her final presentations, which was a poster advertising yoga classes to a young male and female audience. So what you can see here is original photos that Mimi has taken of people that she knows in various yoga poses, and the method here is colour photography. On this second example I want to show you, you can see how Mimi has taken these photographs, she's imported them into Photoshop, and then she's manipulated them further. She's also got another photo there on the bottom right of what I'll have to label as unhealthy people, just for the purposes of this presentation. And you can see that this folio page shows 4 different screenshots. And what Mimi did as she worked in Photoshop is she regularly did screenshots and saved them in a folder, just so that later she could print them out and write annotations. And you'll see the little annotations under there where she talks about, you know, the tools she's used in Photoshop and why she's used it and what effect she's going for. And it's a good example of her thorough, you know, design thinking. And then finally, this is kind of a refinement page that Mimi's done. She's printed out 2 of the digitally altered photographs and created a collage. So the methods shown here are printing and collage. You can also see she's got different coloured and textured materials, in this case paper, and the images are printed on this paper. So there's some great effects that have been created here that perhaps wouldn't have been created if she'd done the whole thing in Photoshop. You can see there's a little shadow that's been created underneath the image of how the paper, because the paper is lifted up slightly from the paper that it's been placed on, so it's created that little shadow. And there's some other kind of interesting effects that have also resulted from that more manual approach. Now, what else did I want to talk about? Moving on, let's look at the second aspect of criteria 4. Just ignore those little yellow rectangles there. The main things to take from this second aspect is to ensure that you're exploring 2- and 3-dimensional manual and digital methods, and that you're doing this in an expressive and creative way. 2-dimensional drawings represent flat shapes, you know, that contain no depth and are used to develop things like logos, type, fashion garments, package nets, and measured orthogonal drawings of products. 3-dimensional drawings communicate form and are used to develop products or environments through isometric, planimetric, or perspective drawings. And it's important that when these 2D and 3D methods are used, that technical expertise is employed. This means that you need to take care to produce the drawings, and you need to apply technical conventions such as scale, dimensioning, and drawing systems that are correctly applied. Drawings need to be neat and accurate. You're also encouraged to be as creative and expressive as possible when using different 3Ms. So again, look at your research examples and really analyse how images and type have been made in the examples collected, and this will give you great inspiration. Okay, now let's look at some folio pages that students have done. This one here is by Lauren, and it shows manual 2D drawing methods to further develop type options for the CD cover. You'll see her type is neatly drawn. Only one of the type drawings looks handwritten, but you can see that Lauren has deliberately communicated a specific type style with the other options. That's pretty key when drawing type in your idea generation and development, because marks will be lost if no care is taken to communicate an actual type style. Here we'll look at Ben's folio page, and this shows again a 2D manual drawing method to further develop his logo options. He explores shape and fill options for his logo design, which in this case was for a surfboard repair company called Ben Stings. And you can see how Ben has explored shape to communicate the surfboards and waves inside the stylized letter, which is a combination of the letters B and D. This folio page by Gemma shows 2D drawing methods, in this case a dimensioned package net, which she produced in order to refine a cupcake package ready to make a 3D mock-up. This page here by Miranda shows 2D manual drawing methods of garment design, which was used to further develop theatre costumes for a play. This one here is a 3D method which was done by Sarah. She shows isometric drawings, and she's used isometric graph paper here, and this is for design options for a veterinary clinic. Here we see some more work by Miranda, and this shows 3D manual drawing methods, in this case 1-point perspective, because she felt that this suitably revealed the environment from the audience's perspective. Okay, and finally, let's look at the final aspect of criteria for assessment. Here it's about your effective choices of media and materials, and how well you experiment with them, and how appropriately you do that with regard to the methods for possible solutions. So remember, it's in the refinement stage, and refinement is the final stage before a mock-up or the rough copy of the final presentations. And refinement really involves fine-tuning and the slight tweaks that you make, not major design changes. So here's the methods and materials media chart from the Guthrie text, and remember that the page number for that again is 42. Media and materials are shown in the last two columns on the right. Media can be applied to a whole range of different materials and should be appropriate for the method chosen. So let's have a look again at some great examples of different media. This is by Miranda. She's used the media of Copic markers and fine line pen. The Copic markers are great because they can apply colour really quickly, and the fine line pen was really appropriate because it could pick up all those details in the veil. Let's have a look now at, I think this is Gemma, Gemma's page. She's used lightweight paper, and paper was the material, and this was appropriate because she could refine her cupcake package design with this lightweight paper, which was cheap, and it allowed her to easily create and test out that mock-up of the 2D package net. Moving on, Gemma then used, here she's used an old Weet-Bix package that she's cut up and used, and she wanted to test out the durability of her package, so she actually used the same material that common packages are made from. And here we can see Copic markers and fine line pen, which are again appropriate media that Sheridan's used here to develop and refine character design options. Here Sheridan actually went to the computer because the computer allowed her to apply colour even quicker than with the Copic markers. So once she'd kind of worked out a few different options, she went to computer so that she could do things a lot quicker. And finally, I think we'll look at Mimi's package design, and she's used fine line media and colour texture, and these are appropriate because it allows her to refine her package design. The fine line pen gives her crisp outlines, and the texture, the blue texture, actually indicates the folding lines of the 2D packaging nets, which makes constructing the 3D mock-up, you can see in the photographs down below, a lot easier for her. And the final slide will just summarise really. So in conclusion, criteria 4 is all about the way you use materials, methods and media to develop and refine your design solutions.